Lincoln Heights is a neighborhood that's almost entirely made up of the Lincoln Heights housing projects. The complex consists of low-rise apartment buildings and row houses ranging from a one-bedroom to four. The government housing project is run by DC's Housing Authority. The estate of Lincoln Heights is now 80 years old, and its current functionality has rendered it obsolete. So my question is, are they knocking down Lincoln Heights? Right here in this spot, on this hill, is where 411 used to be. That's the building my mother used to live in as a toddler from a teenager. Now it's gone. I think they knocked it down like 2 years ago. So now in Lincoln Heights, directly across the street, they are building a new building. My mother said she used to look over this hill out of that window. But on this hill, it used to be nothing but grass. And you can see the school behind it. But now, you see a brand new building. So the question is this building now a part of Lincoln Heights? I'll find out. The Alley Dwelling Authority, which was transformed into DC's Housing Authority, along with the United States Housing Authority, funded the construction of the Lincoln Heights dwellings in Northeast DC starting in 1943 and completed construction in 1946. The Lincoln Heights neighborhood was originally called the Town of Lincoln, and because of World War II, housing was needed to house the National Defense workers and returning veterans. So the Lincoln Heights dwellings were one of the public housing complexes built just for that reason. My mother said that her mother was inspired to name her firstborn, after Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, because she advocated for housing for military families and poor and black people. My mother said that her mother said to her, Eleanor Roosevelt helped us get an apartment in Lincoln Heights, so I really liked her. While I was taking pictures in Lincoln Heights, I came across another homemade memorial for another death for another crime victim. But then my tour was interrupted by gunshots. I thought I was safe visiting this dangerous area of the city because this winter's day was 30 degrees and 11 a.m. with few people walking around. The construction workers moved around with confidence, so I thought I would too. There's a police station blocks away, so the police did arrive minutes later. Lincoln Heights has a history of violence almost as long as the housing project has been in existence. The crime of theft has happened more often than murder and assault, but the many neighbors around the area complain about hearing gunshots in the area weekly, if not more often. But I'll go back to the neighborhood in a few days once I'm brave enough to go again. Before I went back to Lincoln Heights, I called DC's Housing Authority to answer some questions for me. What's going to happen to the people that's currently living in Lincoln Heights? Are you still renting, and who are you renting to? Are you tearing down Lincoln Heights? Is the new building on 50th Street a part of Lincoln Heights? So the representative broke it down to me this way. She said that the people currently living in Lincoln Heights have housing vouchers to live in government public housing, and these people will be moving out. Currently, no new renters will be coming in because Lincoln Heights is being torn down slowly, so the current residents can be relocated. And the new building on 50th Street is privately owned. That's not a part of the redevelopment of Lincoln Heights. In 2006, DC City Council has created a revitalization plan that would transform the housing project into a mixed-use and mixed-income neighborhood that would include the redevelopment of the Strand Theater, just a block away on Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue. So all of the Lincoln Heights residents have the right to come back as the first residents of these new buildings. The Strand Theater on Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue was specifically established for the African American community and served as a 600-seat movie theater, a dance hall, and a pool room. Originally built in 1928, it closed its doors in 1959. The city bought the theater out of foreclosure for $230,000 in 2006, and the theater was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2008. So now, the renovation of the Strand will include an apartment building. The apartment building is now in the location next door where a closed dry cleaners used to be. I brought my father with me this time to look at the progress that has been made since October 2020 and to reminisce about going to the Strand Theater when he was a young man. Alright, that is the Strand building, the Strand Theater today, 2022. With a new apartment building right beside it. Do you remember going to the Strand Theater?
Of course.
So how much was a ticket when you were young?
25 cents per person.
According to the Strand website, the new apartment building is called the Strand Residences, with 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Some apartments will be set aside specifically for the returning Lincoln Heights residents. The theater itself is being turned into the Deanwood Smokehouse and will be operated by the owners of the Ivy City Smokehouse. And now to continue on with my original tour of Lincoln Heights, I have to mention who Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue was named after. Nanny Helen Burroughs was an accomplished writer and editor. She was an educator, orator, religious leader, civil rights activist, and businesswoman. According to the National Park Service, Burroughs was born to former slaves and moved to D.C. at a young age with her mother after her father died. She graduated with honors from the M Street School, now called Dunbar High School in Northwest D.C. In spite of her academic achievements, she was rejected from a teaching job in the D.C. public schools by the Board of Education. After the rejection, she decided to open her own school to educate and train poor working black women. Burroughs served as the president of the Women's Auxiliary of the National Baptist Convention. Burroughs proposed her idea to the convention, and the organization purchased 6 acres of land and built the National Training School for Women and Girls. The school opened in 1909 and still operates today as a private co-educational school. Burroughs died in 1961, and even though she never married, she dedicated her life to the education of black women. In 1964, the school was renamed the Nanny Helen Burroughs School, just in her honor. The small Lincoln Heights neighborhood is unofficially determined by East Capitol Street to the south, Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue to the north, and enclosed from 47th Street down to Division Avenue. And the smaller Lincoln Heights neighborhood is a part of the larger Deanwood neighborhood. Deanwood has a rich history of a diverse mixture of residents, housing styles, parks and playgrounds, schools, and retail. Deanwood is serviced by 4 metro train stations and multiple bus lines. With the City Council's announcement of the redevelopment plans, Lincoln Heights has shown more signs of gentrification. Apartment buildings have turned into large houses. Row houses have turned into single-family houses. Small empty lots have become small homes. Rental prices have increased, and home sale prices have doubled. The neighborhood is improving, but at what cost? A lot of native Washingtonians are afraid of gentrification because it prices them out of their own neighborhoods. The mayor has promised affordable housing in all of the new multifamily housing developments in the city. Invisibly, Lincoln Heights is changing. How will these improvements change the dynamic of this old historic neighborhood? How are the changes going to reflect on the next generation? Only time will tell. I'm Dickie D in DC, and I want to thank you for following me, and I will see you in the next video.